Hey, okay, well, I went to see Return to Silent Hill this week at my local cinema. Haven't been for a while, so that was kind of cool. And I thought I'd record a video with some thoughts about it. I wouldn't call this a review necessarily. It's more just a collection of thoughts. It doesn't really feel as structured or specific as a review, so there's that. I got my notes here, so if you see me looking away, that'll be why. And okay, let's get to it. Start by saying I didn't hate the movie. I've read a lot of opinions online where people seem to be loathing it, and I don't. I don't hate it. I mean, it's not brilliant, and there are things I certainly hate about the film, but I don't think it's a terrible movie, and I don't think it deserved the less than 5% that it gets on IMDb. As I say though, there are things I don't like about it. For example, well, it's not even that I don't like it, it's just the nature of the film, I guess. But if you're expecting a straight adaptation based on the game and the story of the game, well, not so much the story, but certainly the events of the game as they play out in the game, then that doesn't happen. You're not going to get that. And, it makes sense that you don't get it because it's a different medium, and I don't think it would work like that. Honestly, one of the things I don't like, again, is the CGI, I'm afraid. I mean, I say that I don't like it. It's blatant in a lot of cases, so they're not trying to hide the fact that there is CGI, so I'm guessing that it's being done for a specific reason. But yeah, I do find it a little bit distracting, to be honest. In some places. In other places, not so much, like in the actual town when we eventually get there and the other world takes over, the sirens go off and the other world takes over, all of that. It works better then. The last video I did about it, reacting to the trailer, I was talking about how choreographed the monsters look, and they do a little bit. But having said that, I don't know that normal quote-unquote actors could have portrayed those roles because the physicality of them is so specific. So you probably would need somebody with at least a background in dance, if not, professional dancers themselves. I've heard people say and seen people say that it is so unlike the game that it could have been its own thing and they didn't need to put the Silent Hill name on it. I don't agree with that. I did agree with it briefly, but as the film went on, then I felt that it's got a very specific feel, though the feel is different from the game. But I think the reason for that is that there are two worlds here. You've got the Silent Hill universe of the games and the Silent Hill universe of the films, and the two are quite distinct. I mean, they're quite different logically because the medium's so different. I think they do make the mistake at some points of the movie by trying to make it look like a video game, which is Not a good idea. I don't think they should do that because you're never going to capture video game feel completely in a movie format. The mediums are just too different, in my view. Like in a game, for example, you are that character. It's you going through that story. And it takes a number of hours usually. And you can't do that with a film. It's a set length. And you're watching somebody else go through the story. So I think that that's a big difference. And while you can suggest the world of the game in a film, I think to try and copy it directly is a mistake because the mediums are so different. Now, turning to the actual content of the film itself, I actually enjoyed the first half an hour. I thought it was interesting. There are some shots, without wanting to ruin anything, there are some shots that are iconic in the game, and those are captured very well. I'll say that. And yeah, those are done well. Again, the scene at the beginning, which everybody knows with bathroom, so I am giving that away, I guess, is when he looks in the mirror, it's weird. It looks like, I don't know, it looks like they've CGI-ified his reflection. Now, why you would do that, I don't know, but clearly it's a style choice that they went with. In a couple of scenes in the movie, there are scenes in the movie that feel like cutscenes from a video game, essentially. I don't know whether that's the intent, but clearly they went with a particular style. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I should say that, I don't have a problem with video game adaptations in film. They can be quite fun, if not necessarily the best films you've ever seen, like the original Doom movie, for example. It's a giggle, but in no way is it a quote-unquote good film necessarily, but it is what it is. I suppose one of the best video game adaptations I can think of off the top of my head is the Hitman film with Timothy Olyphant as Agent 47. I thought that was done as reasonably well as you're gonna get out of a video game adaptation, at least in my view. I mean, people might disagree with that. I don't know. The first Silent Hill movie and Revelations, the second one, which was in 3D, of course, aren't really my cup of tea. I mean, certainly the first one feels overly long to me, and I don't particularly like movies about cults. I don't know why, it's just a personal preference. So that's for the first one. The second one, again, it's a cult, but that film is such a mess anyway that it's hard to critique it, I find, because there are so many different influences coming in from every side that I, anyway, can't really get a handle on the story. Well, I can get a handle on the story, but the way it plays out is a little too chaotic for my liking. Let's put it that way, then. Of course, the story here is different, almost by necessity. As I said, you can't film it straight. You have to put it in its own world, I think, because the medium is so different. which means obviously the story is likely to be different. Does it suffer because it's different? I think if you make it different but good, or passable, or whatever, then that's one thing. You can carry that off. If, however, you take a story like Silent Hill 2, the game, that is very beloved by a very specific fan base, and change it into something that isn't as good, or that has elements that stray too far from what the original story was, then I think people are going to get upset about that. And people have gotten upset about Return to Silent Hill, and I think they're going to continue to, because in part the game is so loved. Silent Hill 2, the game, is so loved. However, this for me isn't a direct adaptation of Silent Hill 2. It draws on the first three games, I think. Unfortunately, yes, there is a cult aspect. I was hoping that they wouldn't go that way, but they did. And it feels baggy, because you never really get closure on what the aim of the cult is. Only that sort of Mary is sort of a big part of it. Obviously going to be spoiling things in this, so it's pointless trying to go no spoilers with a story like this, I think. Pyramid Head, of course, is present, as he was in the second game, and for the most part he's handled pretty well, but I think the game is given away a little bit early. Or it feels early. It's kind of at the right time in the story, but it feels early because the film is so short, so the story has to be told quite quickly. It's only an hour and 45 minutes in length, so where do you put the realization of what Pinhead is? I guess it's done. Well, it's done badly, but it's also done, I think. It's not horrendous. I mean, it's not insultingly badly. Is it insultingly badly? To some, it will be insulting. To me, it wasn't as insulting, but I can understand why it would piss people off. Because it makes it so blatant, essentially. The same with the other characters. I mean, in the game, you've got Angela, Eddie, Maria, Mary and James, obviously, and Laura, little girl. Now, in the game, all those characters have their own specific stories, in a way. Not necessarily their own stories, but they feel like their own stories. And looking at the game, Angela's story is distinct from Laura's, for example. I think that can be said quite easily. Here, the stories are handled differently, and it's cheapened a little bit for me, because of, they had to do something. It's less than 2 hours. They couldn't do all those in-depth stories, so they condensed them, I guess, which is understandable, but could they have made the film longer and actually delved more into each individual character? Possibly, but then would people have sat through it? I don't know. I don't know if people would have sat through that, to be honest. It might have outstayed its welcome if it went too far past the 2 hour mark, in my view, at least. Yeah, as I say, the for those that get upset about, oh, it's not Silent Hill 2, oh, they've pissed on the story of Silent Hill 2 and this, that, and the other. Yes, they have. However, as I say, I think it's a pastiche movie. I think it's not supposed to be faithful completely to the story of Silent Hill 2. Because a lot of Silent Hill 2, the game, is internal and symbolic. And again, it's a different media, so I don't know how you would do that in film, necessarily. Let's have a look what I've got here. Yeah, now the ending of the film has caused a little bit of controversy. I've heard some describe it as being like Groundhog Day, for example. I don't think it's that. I think it's the idea of going on a journey, getting through to the other side of it, and then fantasizing about having another chance at life, which, let's be honest, we would all like. Either that, or after everybody dies, it's James's version of heaven, his idea of heaven, or because of, his madness, etc. It could be his idea of, it could just be his fantasy. He wished that this is how his life with Mary would have been, even though it wasn't and never could have been. The game, of course, has nothing like a happy ending, really. It's, you go through James's hell as James, pretty much. And even when he works out what's going on, it brings no relief from his suffering. He just understands why he's suffering and why, he's paying for the sin that he commits, basically. Which is, again, it's very different, but would it have made the film too depressing? And how else would you have ended it? I suppose I would have left it when he drives the car into the lake. I wouldn't have put the happy ending on the end of it. But then there were a lot of things I wouldn't have done with this movie, frankly. I wouldn't have recycled one of the characters from Silent Hill Revelations, or pretty much anyway, because there's like I don't know whether Christoph Gans has got some sort of a fucking spider mannequin fetish, but there is a character in the film that is in the Silent Hill Revelation film, and it doesn't exist in the game. I mean, I don't know where that character came from or why it's there particularly, but there we go. I think there are enough characters in the game that they didn't have to create any specifically for the film. Put it that way. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, actually. I do think it's worth a look. Obviously, he's not blonde, James. So, you've got to accept that. before you see the film. There are a lot of things that you have to accept with this film, which is not necessarily the best thing in the world, to make people accept a load of different shit about a story that they love, and that you're in some ways stepping all over by making a film of it. But as I say, IMDb gave it less than 5%, less than 5 stars, which I think is pretty ridiculous, frankly. There are plenty of films worse than this that I've seen that have got higher stars counts. I think that, yes, it has and will continue to receive critical flack as a film. And I think to some degree that flack is deserved. But I also think they had to know that that flack was coming, and they stuck to their guns and made the film they wanted to make anyway, in the way they wanted to make it. And I think there's something to be said for that. Because you were never going to please anybody. This story is to be loved by the gaming community. For example, if they called the film Silent Hill 2, it would have been a fucking mess. Tried multiplying the critical reception by about 10, because people would have, if they called it Silent Hill 2, I think it would have not been good, and I think they realised that. Either way, I understand why people won't like it, and like specific parts of it in particular, the incoherence of parts of it. And as a fanboy of the game myself, I mean, it's possibly my favourite game of all time, the original version. I haven't played the remake, but it looks very good. But for that time, it is my favourite game, and so would I describe myself as a fanboy? Possibly. And, I'm not prepared to go apeshit the way people have about it. I just don't think it's worth that. I think it's different enough that, that people need to be reasonable about it, honestly. Because you were never going to get the story filmed. And you were never going to have the experience you have in the game. Because it's now in 45 minutes long, and the film is anything up to 8 hours, or now over 12 hours with the remake if you try and 100% it. So I don't think that was doable, and I think people need to chill just a little bit, is my view. Yeah, that's everything I wanted to say. So thank you for watching this discussion, I'll call it, of Return to Silent Hill. I hope you enjoyed the video, or at least found it interesting in some way. If you did, please like, share, comment and subscribe. And I will speak to you soon. As always, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.